John.
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear us. Okay, good. Stephen can hear us. Yvonne can hear us. All right, we got thumbs up all around. Perfect. Okay. You guys all did great, by the way. How do you feel about your talks?
Glad it's over.
Really? You did so awesome. I don't know if you were watching the comment section, but it was on fire. Everyone loved your talk. The whole talk. Like, yeah, you did awesome.
Who?
Everybody.
Oh, thank
Everybody.
you.
Yeah, no, there was nobody who didn't. It was awesome.
Yvonne, we've become one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I saw the lineup when I first saw like the schedule. I was like, "Are you serious? They put me like in the middle of all these heavy hitters. Like I have to come correct. Like I have to do something to stand out because John is awesome, Stephen is awesome. And I'm just like right dab in the middle. So it's like I didn't want to be that talk that was like, yeah, okay, who's next?
That was fun. I thought you did fantastic. So yeah, you did really good. It was fun to watch. Thank you. All right, I'm going to jump into the questions. I think this first one might be for you, Stephen. It's got the most votes. It says, is there a timeline for giving reactive forms a touch-up or overhaul? Our applications are all heavily form-driven, but the reactive forms API hasn't gotten any major features in a while. I'll stop there.
Sure. So the easy answer is no, there's not a timeline. But I know that's not a super satisfying answer. As everyone knows, we've been working on getting version 9 out in Ivy. We're headed towards the future. I think there's a lot of new possibilities now where like we actually have this headspace to say what are the priorities and what should we be working on for the next few versions. So we hear this a lot. So we know it's a problem and we do want to focus on it. It's just figuring out which one's the top priority.
Yeah, it is the top most voted issue on the Angular GitHub is the reactive form stuff. So it is important. Anyway, I know you guys have been like forced to focus on a thing and you guys are finally coming up for fresh air. So it'll be cool to see when you get a chance to work on it. So good luck,
and
man.
Keep calling us out on the things you care about. That's what we need to hear.
Yeah, good. All right, another one says, hey, Stephen, is there any micro front-end apps in Google Build with Angular?
Sure. So it depends on your definition of micro front end as per the talk. What I'll say is that within Google, like the concept of a micro front end doesn't make as much sense because we do use really extensive lazy loading. Like every feature is a module, everything's being lazy loaded. And so like if you log into Google Cloud Platform, you are loading into a bunch of different apps maintained by a bunch of different teams, but it all feels like a single cohesive experience. Obviously they don't have they have often a shared entry point, but they don't have to. So we've got such good build systems and such like large products that are split up into tiny pieces. And so from a certain perspective, we're already there, but we're not taking advantage of things like server-side rendering yet.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, man. I think this one's for all three of you. It says, in your experience, what is a healthy mix of expertise and overall team size for small, medium, and large teams? How many entry-level devs are too many for an expert to take under their wing? Just pick it off if you want to, any one of you.
There is no perfect mix. I think a lot of it depends on things. I like to look at development teams as like a football, baseball, soccer, rugby team, whatever sport you like, if sports were actually being played in the world right now. And the way I look at that is you like to have some veterans on your team. Those could be your senior or principal level people. You want a couple of those who've been there, done that with the experience. You want some youth on the team and energy, some people who've just come into this world because they see things with a different view. And you want different kind of cultural, different kind of backgrounds. If you get a more diverse team all across the board in every way diversity can be seen or not seen, it really does help the team out. As far as size goes, I like to break actual functional teams up into just a couple of people, like studios of maybe 5 people that can work together and they can all coordinate in concert. Stephen or Yvonne, do you have an opinion?
I can say, speaking from like the junior developer, mid developer considering that I just recently became more senior developer status. Spending a lot of time as a junior developer, and more wanting, like, one thing about junior developers is that they're hungry. Like, they take pride in their work. They always have new ideas. They're always out, and they're more the ones out in the community. Not saying that, like more senior ones aren't, just like they're just kind of hungry. They're really hungry. They want to know all there is to know, and they want to do a good job. So definitely having a few of them on the team, and maybe making sure that there's a nice pairing where they're not afraid to come to you and you're not afraid, or you don't treat them like they're kind of a nuance, can definitely keep the team more congealed. And, having senior developers on the team not only add a lot of expertise, as John said, but it also plays a huge part in helping whether this developer stays a junior for 3 years or 6 months, because the more you give to a junior developer, especially the really hungry ones, and kind of make sure that the team is going right, they can too become senior developers in no time, which then makes your team more stronger and able to handle even more complex projects. So for me, definitely having a balance, like what John said, and knowing how to deal within those realms can definitely play a huge part, especially small teams as well.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Yvonne said. The thing I'll add is that I think it depends on the team and the product as well. Because if you look at a really stable product, which has been around for a long time, it's giant, it's probably easier to bring on more junior team members, right? Because you can give them easier tasks, they can take more time, there's less pressure, but at the same time, it's probably not as good for their career. So if you do have hungry, passionate, more junior members, it can be more exciting to put them on the newer, exciting things where there's a chance to make mistakes, there's a chance to take ownership of something new and learn on the job.
Awesome. Thanks. Steven, your face is frozen, but we can hear you still. So keep going. All right, next question. Maybe he's a ventriloquist now. He's practicing because he's trying to impress his
I can
son.
see it just fine.
Yeah.
His face is moving for me.
Good job, Steven. All right. So here's the next question. I think this may be for John. What is the best way to handle an error when fetching a lazy loaded route? Does preload have a retry or interceptor?
No, it doesn't, and I wish it does. That's high on my feature list. I was just tinkering today with trying to figure out how I could get interceptors to work with preload, but to be like a preload interceptor. So I'm sure if I only knew someone on the Angular team, we could talk about that a little bit. Right now, if there's retries and fetches, with RxJS, there's ways that you can actually pipe into that and find out what's happening. But I have yet to find a way to make it retry. Stephen, is there a way to do that?
I don't know the answer to that, but we should look in that together.
We should do that. I'd love that. Great question.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer. All right, next question. I think this one might be for Stephen. Are there any tools showing component usage in Monorepo?
So there are a bunch of these tools out there. I've seen them, and I've talked to people that want to open source them and want to make them public. That has not yet happened, and so you can blame me for not pushing the community. It's a bunch of enterprises who their default assumption is, hey, I need this tool for me, so I'm just going to build it in secret, and no one else will ever need it. But I think there's a huge need here, and so if you're out there, if you're building one of these tools, because I know a bunch of companies are, let's ping me. Let's put together a group and let's all build one together.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I agree. All right, next one, also for Stephen, and I'm just taking these off of the most upvotes. Stephen, for an enterprise strategy, does it make sense to upgrade Angular versions yearly? And if so, should one stay away from .0 releases?
So what I'll say is that the quality of every Angular commit is very, very high. And so when I say commit, that means literally every commit that we merge into the master branch of our GitHub repository is tested across all of Google. And so we're actually very, very sure of every release of Angular all the way down to patch. And then we do a ton of extra testing for every major. And so I have no fear about using .0 releases in production. I don't recommend anyone else be afraid of them, but I understand there's legacy concepts that make you afraid. I would definitely say upgrade twice a year. Don't wait for a year, because you're just making more work for yourself and you're just putting yourself behind the curve.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. Because I get to work kind of closely with you and your team on these early releases. You guys say, hey, try this out. And if you're worried about a release, if you get in early, you actually have the Angular team's full attention. Like if you're like, hey, I'm going to get a bug, the Angular team, if you do it early, the Angular team's like watching and they're there to fix your bugs like hands-on. So you don't have to push your production, but you can at least give it a try with them watching. So I would say get in sooner rather than later.
If you hit us up midway into the next major or the next minor or anything like that, it is far easier for us to go fix your bug before it goes out to everybody than after it's gone out.
Totally. I totally agree with that. Okay. All right. This one, I think we're going back to John. Is there a way to preload modules asynchronously? I've seen a preload strategy block JS while it gets the modules.
Well, preloading kind of happens asynchronously. It happens behind the scenes for you already. So it's not something that like you make your users wait for. So when you say asyncly, I'm not really sure what your question's actually asking about. I've seen the preload strategy block JavaScript. Yeah, because it's not really on a background thread. It's happening inside the browser, so it's actually taking up the processing of the browser when this happens.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand the question.
Like on a worker thread? I don't know of any.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't think that's how it does happen, actually. It can't block on an asynchronous fetch for the data for this JavaScript, so that's weird.
Right. But it's not like on a worker thread as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. All right. Well, then the answer's no, or I don't know. Okay. Next question. John. Come on. John, you're famous. You already knew this. Okay. John, how do you handle shared code if two preloaded routes use the same component services? Won't they be downloaded twice?
Shared code of two preloaded routes download the same
components and services.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, you said it. You got it.
Yeah, I was just looking for the text. I like to read them too. Yeah. So if you've got two preloaded routes, let's say heroes and villains, two completely separate things. If they're sharing the same services, that service is probably in the app module. Maybe it's in the main module. So that thing's already been loaded already. Yeah. So no, it doesn't download the thing twice in there. If it's something that's to share, Angular is actually pretty smart about creating a bundle that's like, you might have seen in my demo, I had a heroes-villains bundle as well. So it was a heroes bundle, a villains bundle, and then there was a heroes villains bundle. Yeah. That's where the shared code actually goes if there's two sharing in the same module. So in that case, heroes gets downloaded, and so does the shared one. And then when villains comes, it gets that module, but it's already got the shared one there.
So
hard to talk about.
Yeah, so by default, Webpack, which is what the CLI is using, will put that into a commons chunk. That's what that's called. So those pieces will get loaded in a commons chunk. But if you don't like that, you can turn it off. Yeah. And each chunk, actually, at that point, it will download it 2 times. But by default, it loads it 1 time, but it loads it like when the whole app loads. It doesn't lazy load either of them. When 2 things need it gets put in the commons chunk. So yeah.
Yeah, try the demo that I showed. It actually does do that. So if you download that, run it, and the instructions should be in the README, it'll actually walk you through and you can see this happen.
Okay. Yvonne, what about backward compatibility for taking out the entry component?
I think, am I on mute?
No, we hear you. You're frozen, but we can hear you.
Oh, haha. Oh.
There you are. We see you now.
How are you hearing me? I was on mute. That's crazy. I may have. I don't even know where. So from what I read, because I was doing a lot of research, you will have to remove them. From what I read, I think I may be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But I did read that you have to remove them.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I think if you just leave your entry components in, actually, Stephen, when you upgrade to 9, isn't there a schematic that pulls out all your entry components for you?
I don't know. There might be. That sounds likely.
If there's not, I don't think it matters because they don't
run ng update and it works.
Yeah, they're just frivolous metadata at this point. I don't think that they matter anymore, right?
Yeah.
They get recycled into shoes. Yeah.
No. They're not recycled into shoes.
Yeah, they do.
It's
an outreach program.
Yeah, the entry components. I actually wrote out this in a blog post. I've got a link if anybody wants to read it later. I can stick it.
I think it was you. I think it was you. Your article that I read.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's go. This thing's not sorting anymore by most stars, so I'm having to find John. Could you talk about importance of empty from RxJS?
Empty or empathy?
I don't think RxJS has empathy, so let's just go with empty.
Okay. I was making sure I heard it right. The audio glitched.
Sorry.
Okay. So you're talking about what I showed in my presentation. There's this empty constant that RxJS has that you can use, and it's an observable of never, of type never. So basically what the empty does, it's a way for you to return something from that function in the preload strategy. So if you're not returning the load function, which is an observable, you've got to return something, and it still expects an observable, but of nothing. So that's why it does that.
All right. So, Stephen, any news about Angular for designers?
So no news about the specific co-design project, although I'm sure the team that continues to work on it, they love hearing about that, and they love feedback. But what I would point people to right now is UI Bakery. So this is a service from a different team called Equio, where it has similar sorts of kind of live interactive prototyping, where you can click kind of in a visual experience that gives you real code that you can interact with. So I would definitely tell people if you're interested in this sort of kind of rapid prototyping and you want a visual tool, check out UI Bakery.
Yeah, I'm going to drop a link to UI Bakery down in below. Like it's going to go down to the button down there. They're doing a pre-release or an early release of their latest UI Bakery with some new features with backend API support. So just to kind of piggyback, they're a sponsor of the event. So I'm going to follow what Stephen said. Go check out UI Bakery. Thanks, Stephen. All right. What's the best strategy? No. Back up. This one's for Yvonne. With entry components being deprecated, does that mean when we upgrade from 8 to 9, we'd have to manually remove current usages, or will the upgrade command automatically handle removing of usage?
I think it's the one we already. Is that the same one we were just talking about?
It's the same question. It's different though, but yeah.
Oh.
So it took them out already, John. Was that the answer? It takes them out for you?
It does not take them out.
Okay, so it leaves them in.
Yeah,
but they're functionally like frivolous. Yeah. Okay.
If when
it doesn't
we
use
remove entry component.
The reason why is because all of the information now is added to the static properties, and under the hood it still uses NG factories. There's a wrapper class that is the NG factory, but in itself, the component is now a reference to its own factory, and it has all the information in those two properties. So it's not really needed. I mean, you can leave them there if you don't want to, deal with the technical debt, but they're not going to be used.
Yeah, so as I'll comment a little bit here too. So as part of the migration story, when you update to version 9, we want you to still be able to go back to the old rendering engine compiler. So like we want you to be compatible with both. Whereas when we start removing them, when we remove the view engine compiler, then they won't make any sense. And so then we'll automatically migrate. When we actually remove them and we change the API, then we'll automatically remove them for you.
Cool.
And it looks like Igor just said the same thing.
I found it in the chat. Igor's been out there, so yeah.
Okay. Cool. Another question for Stephen. They're saying, just wondering, any news on Angular Photon?
Sure. So Angular Photon was an experiment that we did with kind of dynamic late loading of individual component behaviors and functionality. It was just a proof of concept. It was, from our perspective, successful in terms of we showed that we could do this. The problem with it was that it wasn't productionizable. Like we couldn't just release that feature because it wasn't compatible with most of the things that Angular developers do. And so for us, the big challenge was getting out Ivy so that we are unblocked, and now we can actually start to think about, okay, how could we productionize this? How do we offer these sorts of capabilities in the existing Angular world without breaking everyone's APIs? So it's something that Ivy enables us to start thinking about.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Okay. What's the best strategy to build 2 apps, separate URLs, internally and externally accessible, with slight content changes into a single code repo? Any one of the 3 of you could answer that. So 2 apps, one's internal, one's external, slight content changes on a single code base. Or single repo, sorry, yeah.
Same app with different databases or different database queries, maybe.
Yeah,
It all depends what you're doing,
Different environments.ts.
You could have different environments files. I mean, this is something, if you look at the KLM Air France of the world, the Deltas of the world, this happens all the time in enterprise where we have multiple brands for the same product. And so there's a bunch of different strategies. You can do it at the content layer, where if you're pulling content from a database, you can do it there. You can do it in an environments file, and then you can kind of have conditional behaviors in every single component.
Yep.
Or you can have kind of different application layers wrapping on lower level pieces. You can have kind of injection tokens that identify which set of behaviors and app you're in. There's a whole bunch of really good strategies around this, and it's heavily dependent on what problem you're trying to solve.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. All right, Stephen, any
work too.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. All right. Is there any plan to stop support or dev on Angular in the near future with so many frameworks coming forward? It's a weird question.
Is there any plan to stop? No.
That's a weird question.
I'm really glad this didn't come to me or Yvonne. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
No, we think Angular is great. The community continues to grow. We build better and better apps every day. Why would we stop? It's wonderful.
It continues to grow inside at Google, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to keep building Angular for Google, but we're always going to do it in a way that supports the world, because that's the core of who we are, is doing this open source, doing it with the ecosystem, doing it with the community.
Got it. All right. JP, set order in preload strategy. Is that possible?
Yeah, I commented on in the text a little. You can, with a lot of logic and hard work, you could kind of write your own way to do it, but nothing natively will do that for you.
Okay. It's good to know that. If you do figure it out, you should add it to that blog series of all your preload strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Stephen, do you have any recommendations for tooling to use tracking component usage in Monorepo? Like dependency graph type stuff?
I think we already touched on that.
Yeah, there's several of these questions in here. Okay. 1 second.
Yeah, no, I think that one really hit a nerve, and so I do want to put together a group to actually do this together. So send me a Twitter DM, and we will put this group together, and we will make sure this gets built.
All right, Stephen, what can we expect in Angular 10? Break it down.
So I will not make any commitments about specific functionality or features, but I will just comment briefly on timing. So it is currently April. We are planning on moving to RC relatively quickly and moving to final relatively quickly here. So do not expect, or we're not thinking about spending 3 or 4 or 5 months on making this a giant, big feature-rich release. We're focused on kind of keeping the ecosystem moving forward, and then kind of doing planning and figuring out the future as we go. So I would expect this release to be relatively smaller compared to, for example, 9.0 or other releases.
Gotcha. Okay. JP, how is empty different than of null?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head there. I know that empty means that you have... Yeah, actually, of null might work in that case.
Doesn't that emit a null then?
Sorry?
Doesn't that emit a null? Isn't that an observable that emits null?
Null versus never. I'm just not sure what the preload would do if you returned a null. I don't know. I can find out in the next 2 minutes.
Right.
From an observable standpoint, they're definitely different,
Yes.
but they might not be different in a preloading context.
Okay,
Right.
cool. All right. I'm looking. We got a lot more questions on here. They're all kind of the same, though. All right. There's no more voting happening. So,
Hey, Aaron, can Yvonne and I answer the question like Stephen did of what's coming in Angular 10? Because we're not in the Angular team, so we can say anything we want.
yeah, no. JP, Yvonne, what's coming in Angular 10? Yvonne, did you freeze? JP, what's coming in Angular 10?
Everything. They're going to have ice cream, candy, pizza coupons, and Stephen is going to come to everybody's house personally and teach them how to use Angular 10 when it comes out. I'll do the upgrade.
I'm gonna wear a mask.
Can you hear me?
Though.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Now, Yvonne.
Can you hear us? Shrug. She can't hear us. All right. Google Meet. When you can't use Zoom, use Google Meet. All right. Yvonne, I wish you could hear us because we wanted you to answer a question. Oh yeah, maybe someone. We'll just type to her and ask her to rejoin.
Holy crap! It's like super delayed.
Yeah. Sorry, bud.
It's delayed.
Stephen, JP, Yvonne, do you guys have anything else you want to say?
Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Stay
Is
safe.
it now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
We can hear you now, Yvonne.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know what happened, but I'm back. What was the question?
We want to know we want you to answer what features will be in Angular 10, and they can be any feature you want.
Oh, wow. Okay. Here's what the one that I want, where like you have preloaded templates where like if you're doing not a dashboard, but like e-commerce app or something like that, you just like type in e-commerce into your Angular CLI and like all the stuff for like e-commerce will pop up. And I don't have to like do any actual work and create my own data structure. I'm saying on my own structure of an application, just there for common things like e-commerce or stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. I'm excited to see that in Angular 9, Stephen.
Like something community can help us with. So
yeah, Angular 10.
You just volunteered.
Hey, good luck on that one, Stephen. That's a cool feature. We're all excited. You're cutting the RC any day, so this is exciting. Right?
Yes. We're like developers naturally, like we just want to do like the least amount of work. So like if we have like free templates, why not, right?
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and you're volunteering for that, right, Yvonne?
Yeah.
She's volunteering. All right. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Everybody put your hands together for our panel. Thank you for coming. Thanks for your talks. Thanks for staying so dedicated in these stressful times. We appreciate you. Thank you.